Hey guys, welcome, welcome, welcome. Yeah, Hat Tuesday number 31. I already got a guest. We got my main man Paul, and I kind of saw this. I just saw this post. Paul, welcome.
How you doing? That's not on straight. Oh well, never mind.
Doing well, doing well. I mean, for
Good.
all you guys that are a fan of the Carmen San Diego, Paul, I saw this probably right before the show started, and I'm like, thank goodness Paul got this idea, because I mean that Carmen San Diego hat got a lot of gets a lot of eyeballs, and I knew it was just a matter of time before Paul came up with with the actual something similar. And Paul, I'm not gonna just I'll let you get into this fedora if folks aren't on your Instagram.
It was it was inspired by the one that you've got, because I don't know if people don't know the story. The red hat behind Luke there was a hat that I was interested in, and Luke, unbeknown to each other, of course, and Luke managed to buy it, which is great, and he enjoys it. And I'd always thought, what, wouldn't it be nice to have a red hat, a bit different, and just to make one for the hell of it, And I thought I bought a batch of felts from FEPSA, and there happened to be some two or three very nice. And this is a FEPSA 5% beaver, 95% rabbit. And the reason why they put a little bit of beaver in there is just to make it a little bit more water repellent, and also give it a bit more luster in terms of its feel and its look, and it really works out quite nicely. But it was one of those hats where I thought, should I do a full sort of 7 or 8 centimeter brim? And I thought, no, I'm going to do something that's perhaps a bit more like a wide trilby, a junior fedora. So that's all I've done here. Is I've given it the I did do a straightforward crease to start off with, and then I thought, well, you know what, the one I was looking at, which was yours, of course, had the teardrop, and I thought, well, I'll put the teardrop in it, and I'm pleased how it's come up. I'm going to sort of wear it more up than down, I think. So you just sort of play around with it, but it's literally been something that I've just played with today, and just thought, well, you know what, I can wear a black jumper or a black suit or something, and it'll just be a bit of fun, and of course people can see that it's something different, but I'll put it up for sale, no doubt. But yeah, I just sort of been playing with that over the last couple of days, which is quite nice.
I'm curious as to how quickly that will sell, because it's one of the hats that I feel like garners as probably the most attention. It's, obviously we talked about the power of red, and again, from males as well as females on the Facebook groups. So I feel like, it's such a great hat. I mean, again, you don't have to call it the Carmen San Diego. That's just something that I naturally called it. But it's eye-catching, and I tell you, Paul, it looks really good on you.
Thank you.
Yeah, and it's one of those things I'm like, I'm telling you, if it's one of those things where you want to go and you're feeling lively, it's one of those fedoras that you're like, all right, you know what? Come talk to me, right? You're going to get some conversation.
It's a lovely felt. I mean, I put a bit of stiffener on there, by the way, just to give it a bit of shape and a solid feel, and it just feels nice. You just sort of feel it, and you think, okay, you can feel the beaver fur in it, and I mean, look, it's one of those Marmite hats, as we call them. It's you either love it or you hate it, and you've got to have a bit of courage to wear something like this out. I mean, I'll tell you a funny story. When my son got married the other day, at the evening event, I wore a beigey brown leather sports jacket with matching leather waistcoat, and some beige chinos, and I didn't actually have a hat on, but of course with my shaven head and everything, I looked and at 2 o'clock in the morning I got accosted thinking I was actually a local gangster in the in the city. That shook me. It was like, so I think I'm going to carry on wearing a hat, because I think I look a little less suspicious, maybe.
And I mean, I've talked about this before, is that my personal strategy, because you'll see kind of like on some of the Facebook groups, folks going for the full matching outfit. Maybe they'll wear a full red suit with a matching red fedora. I take the opposite approach. For me, I kind of I've gone to the point where one, I don't wear a whole lot of suits these days. But two, in terms of colors, I like to let the hat stand out. So I'll wear maybe something black, so maybe an all black or maybe a pair of jeans and a black shirt, and then let the fedora kind of, be the spotlight. So that's another thing. And that can kind of tone things down a little bit if you don't want to be too out there. Obviously, if red fedora, you're still going to be a little out there. But, that might ease your way into wearing that out in public. And I tell you, I had such a great, I remember going out to one of our local thrift stores with the red fedora on. I was just like feeling, extra vivacious. And there was a lady there that saw me, and she was like, she just said, "That hat." And then she went like this. "I love that hat." So I'm like, that again, in terms of compliments and attention, you're definitely gonna get it. So I mean, take that off of Paul's hands.
I think also, I'll tell you what's happened with me is that because I've really lost my hair now, and in the UK it's still quite cool. It's chilly, and I get very cold around the back of my neck. I've noticed it gives me a headache, especially when I don't wear a hat, of course. So now I wear the hat, but I've started wearing either high-necked jumpers or scarves. So I'll find a matching red or black scarf or something to go with this, so that it sort of matches it. And anyway, look, I mean, what can I say? It's a bit of fun.
Yeah, I love it, and it almost looks like it's glowing. I mean, I don't know if that's the combination of the felt and the lighting.
Yeah, I mean, it's honestly, the Fepsa felt with a little hint of beaver in it. It's just fabulous. I mean, I've got a felt here that I'm just going to make another hat for myself, and this is I don't need to make hats for myself, but it's really to show people. But this is a 20x. Okay, so that's 20% beaver and 80% rabbit, and it's I think it's a 240 grams, so it's really quite a heavy felt. But I'm going to make a fedora out of it rather than a Western hat, because it's not been stiffened or anything. But it's just, I don't know if you can see, you can't really see it, can you? But there's a beautiful sheen on this. And it hasn't even been pounced yet, It's something that will come up and really shine and come through, even though it's only 20%. I say only 20% beaver. I mean, obviously that's quite luxurious anyway, but it's it will really pop for a brown, a sort of chocolatey brown hat, I think. So I'm quite excited about doing that one. Anyway.
And the neat thing is that Nathan gets more options as well. Shout out to you, Nathan.
Well, I think Nathan could look great in this, by the way.
I agree. I mean, it's one of those things where I'm like, I think sometimes folks don't give themselves enough credit. And I know I've been the recipient of that. It's like, hey, that looks great on you. We got, speaking of Nathan, we got Nathan in the chat.
Hey.
I love this red hat. Yes.
I must admit, Nathan, I nearly put a Pizza Hut lining in it because I thought, well, shall I?
Yeah. I agree, because it's kind of like the inverse of the kind of the Pizza Hut hat. And I think they both look sharp. And again, it just speaks to the power of red. Shout out to you, Josh. I love it. I saw that right before the show started. I'm like, I retweeted it, and I had this feeling. I was like, all right, I hope he brings the hat, because I'm going to ask about it.
Thank you, Luke.
Yeah, my pleasure. Yeah. So definitely looks like that's going to come up for sale. If you want it before it comes up for sale, make sure you at least send a message and express your interest. And again, I'm sure that if it did sell really fast, and Paul would find a way to create another for you guys.
Yeah, I've got more of the felt, and so it's for size and all that, but it's just fun. Yeah.
It looks like you got somebody already eyeballing it, so that's good. I love that.
Yeah, it's when you get into your hats, Luke, you are the same as me and Nathan and others. We become more hat adventurous, and maybe that's another topic that we ought to think about. What's the most adventurous type of hat that you've actually worn, or created, or whatever it might be.
I like that.
It does push the boundaries. I mean, we're all a little bit skeptical about it at times. Should I go out with a hat? Shall I not? And And 9 times out of 10, nobody says anything. And actually, when they do say something, it's usually quite complimentary. So, you know,
Correct.
I think Ian and I certainly saw that in and around London. It was absolutely. Oh, there he is. There's Ian.
Yeah, shout out to Ian.
We certainly saw that when we went to London, and we thoroughly enjoyed it. And you know, it's nice that people appreciate it as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I said, it's one of those things where at the very least you're gonna get, hey, nice hat, which I've gotten in some of my more kind of out there colors. Nice hat, not my style, but I can respect it. It's one of those things where I'm like, even within the hat folks, you have a spectrum in terms of some of the daring, and it's nice to be able to, like I said, your feelings may change from one day. One day you're like, especially there, it's nice to have a hat that you can go out there and match the daring with, right? Just in terms of like, I think I shared this with the inner circle. I'm gonna pause the Fedora Friday episodes. Basically, I mean, the reception's been great. I think for me, this is my ADHD kicking in. They're getting a little bit more. It's a little more challenging to come up with fresh ideas, and they're not going to go away, right? So I love movies. I will never stop loving movies. You guys shouldn't stop suggesting movies. I think they're just going to be a little bit more, less weekly, right? And that way, I think that will help, because I feel like we got a good system for these Hat Tuesdays, given that we have a calendar up, and it's a lot more collaborative, right? So I don't have the wherewithal to come up with the movies ahead of time so that the folks can prepare. But at least with the calendar that we have for Hat Tuesdays, folks kind of have an idea of what's coming up the pike. And don't worry, we will still be here again. For as long as I'm able to keep doing this, I'm going to keep doing this. And, luckily I found some great folks here to help me out with the channel. So stay tuned. But we got a great topic today. I mean, this one is obviously after my own heart. I know, Paul, you also have, started off in the vintage game as well. And obviously this is not for everybody. We've talked about this before. Some people would cringe at the idea of wearing a hat maybe somebody else wore, kind of like the same thing for a vehicle, right? It's like, no, somebody else sat in this, whatever your proclivity is. Vintage, there is kind of a benefit as well, and I talked about this before, to starting off with vintage, or at least dabbling in it, so that you can kind of get an idea of, one, just the history, right? Because we talked about like the historical standpoint, but also in refining some of your taste, right? The vintage game is kind of how I picked up that I love the brim trim. And obviously when I went and started working with folks like Paul, I already kind of knew, hey, brim trim is something that I'm really into. So it can serve that function. And you guys know, I always try to use ChatGPT to give me framework, and usually it's not like an end all and be all, but it's something to kind of just give us something to kind of structure the show and react to. And and so what I asked ChatGPT was to kind of come up with a framework for buying a vintage fedora. And I don't know if these are necessarily in order, but it actually used the term vintage as the as the framework kind of acronym, I guess, for lack of a better term. And this one is really important. And I think Robert had a great comment about this, but it says the V is verify the source, right? I mean, this is in so many things that you're going to buy, especially if it ends up being a high dollar item. I know about this from the watch world. You buy the buyer, right? You're really kind of buying the buyer first, because if you do that, hopefully, the product aligns and it meets your expectations. But we talked about this, man. I tell you, so because hats aren't what they used to be, we know that we have to kind of search online, right? You can go out and do the local thrift stores, you can do private sales, but chances are, if you really want to like jump into the vintage game, you're going to have to also include online sources, and that's when things can get a little hairy.
I think it's interesting, Luke, that when I first started, I didn't, whilst I was looking at the sizes, I understood that the sizes weren't going to be my size. So I bought a number of them because I like the look of them. and it actually, like some people collect coins, for instance, or pens, or anything random, key rings and things. Well, you could treat your hat collection as a pure collection of items that are clearly vintage and classical looking, well made, beautiful design, and the fact that they've lasted so long and still in such good condition. So that's one view, I guess. But I've been buying mainly from eBay and a site called Vinted over here in the UK, and you don't get to see the buyer. In fact, you very little interaction with them. So you are buying the hat from just the photographs that are actually on the channel there. So in some ways, you have to keep you have to bid with your head, not with your heart. So that you think about, okay, what is this hat worth to me? And then that's the maximum you're going to go to. What am I going to do with it? And the reason I say that is that I've just been upstairs to get this Borsellino out to show people a sort of vintage hat. But I've probably got 30 or 40 vintage hats under my bed in boxes that I'm waiting to take out and find the time to actually restore them and put them up for resale. And lots of some of the felts are just beautiful. They're stunning compared to what we get today. They're absolutely stunning. They're a nice thin felt. I'm convinced that they're much more of a beaver mix, or at least a very or some of them may even be beaver because they're that soft. And you just think, gosh, the guys over the years have had some real great opportunity to buy some beautiful hats. And in fact, do you remember that Borsellino that I gifted to yourself? And you got stretched at Lock & Co. That's a very good example of one that I bought without knowing what it was, although I did like it, and I did do a bit of research about the particular model and so on. But it turned out to be something a lot better than we thought. And in fact, hopefully, with you getting it stretched and having it aligned for yourself to wear, not only will you get a lot more enjoyment out of it, but it's a beautiful item. Correct.
And that's, again, we all kind of sometimes kind of the gamification of some of the processes that we go through. It is kind of like that treasure hunt, right? We accept the risks, right, of potentially not getting what we expected, but we all remember that feeling when we go and we open something up and it's just much better condition. Maybe it's a more rare item than you would have expected. And it's kind of like that dopamine hit that you get that still stays with you. It's kind of like that gambler's, right? That gambler's addiction. Like we all felt it.
The minute you put the steam on the felt, Luke, when the hat arrives and it's all crumpled up, and it's got signs of wear. It's been used, it's been touched, it's been shaped and reshaped and made dirty. And as soon as you start putting a wet cloth on it, you're putting it on a block, and so you're reshaping it to a degree. You're giving it that wipe over. You're introducing steam. All of a sudden, it's like a flower coming out of the ground. It's something beautiful that's starting to be reborn. And it is just that. It's a rebirth of a hat. And a lot of these vintage hats, they can do that. They can deliver it. They've still got that life in them. But we as hat enthusiasts have to know, how do we actually bring them alive again?
And that's when videos like yours, Paul, and there are others on YouTube come in really handy. You guys know I don't really do a lot of refurb, but it's not for lack of information and know-how. It's more out of, well, let's just be honest, laziness. But for me, like, I convinced my brain, like, all right, it got this way. I like it this way. I'm good. But Morgan, has shared some of the touch-ups for some of the hats, and it's not difficult. And you're right. It's one of those things where, and there are certain things, because Paul sells, hats that he refurbishes. You got reputable eBay sellers like Jeff Garfinkel. Shout out to you, Jeff. Folks like that, where that the seller, is reputable. They're hat people. Otherwise, you're going to have to do a little bit digging, right? You go through like past sales and see if they're a person that sells hats regularly, if that's their thing. If it's not, then you're going to have to assume the hat was probably something they came across. Maybe they found it at a thrift shop. Maybe it was a relative's item that was sitting in their attic for a long time and not had the love. But that can also be to your advantage, meaning that if you can assume that, then you can price it accordingly, and maybe you put in the elbow grease and you get something that's worth a whole lot more, either to yourself or to somebody else that's going to rehome it. And then you could put maybe a little bit of coin in your pocket. So it really is like there's a lot of different angles for you to do this. And it doesn't mean like you could do everything correct and you still, right, like Robert would say, you can still kiss a lot of toads along the way. And he had a great comment, I mean, which is very similar to what we just discussed. I just want to read it here. It's like Robert is still on vacation, but he had this to chime in. One huge lesson learned when buying off eBay: ask questions of the seller. Are there any odors to the hat, right? So odors are a big deal, right? I mean, depending on the odor, right? There's definitely tactics for dealing with some of that. You know, I know Kevin has videos dedicated to try to remove odors. Paul, I'm pretty sure you probably have something along those lines. I just can't recall off the top of my head.
To be perfectly frank, Luke, I find that a good steaming. Yeah, I mean, I look, depending on the severity. I mean, I will use you know, isopropanol on a cloth. I'll use soap and water, warm water on a cloth. I will even pounce the hat. I mean, I've got a Western felt hat in at the moment that's about 60 or 70 years old, and the family want me to refurbish it. Now, you know, it's got perspiration issues where there's stains around the crown and so on, and you know, a combination of all of those things, including the pouncing, is brought it up. And actually, you think that maybe it's a 2 or 3 year old hat, and that's the thing is and what I would say is just dip in, be prepared to. The worst thing that can happen is you pay $20 for a hat, let's say, and it doesn't work out, and you get $15 back for it when you put it back on eBay. So it's cost you $5 for a bit of experience. But honestly, most of the time I've bought hats here in the UK, they've worked out fine. But what I would say is that people need to do a bit of research about the brands that they buy, because in the UK we've got wool hats, a lot of wool hats, and then we've got brands that perhaps are middle to lower brands in terms of rabbit profile hats, and they're everywhere, you know. And again, you can buy those, and they will make perfectly suitable hats for, you know, going out in the garden, going out for a walk or whatever for yourself. But if you're thinking about selling on a hat after you've refurbished it, you really need to take care and buy something that is a brand that you know other people will desire. And we know about Lock & Co, we know about Bates, we know about things like Herbert Johnson, Stetson. You know, all of these brands are brands that have been around for many years, been well known, people like Scott's, you know, and so on. And they made very good hats. So of course they will appeal to other people like ourselves. And in fact, you know, there are many people that would rather have something that's already been refurbished by somebody else than buy it and do it themselves for whatever reason.
Yeah, and I'm in the same boat. I really didn't have, and I purchased. I mean, the majority of my collection is vintage. I really have rarely come across hats that smelled to the point where I'm like, I got to do something about this. Obviously there is a variation, but some of it's kind of like, I don't know, this sat somewhere, as opposed to like, this is smelling of smoke, which I was a little surprised by. Like for me, you know, in my mind, like if it's, you know, Uncle so-and-so's fedora and, you know, he's passed, and, you know, the time where cigarette smoke was a lot more common, and folks were out and about smoking cigarettes, I expected to come across a lot more of a cigarette smelling, but I really haven't. So it echoes the same thing that you mentioned, Paul. So
honestly, I was just going on about the Stetson that I've got in, and actually, when I took the lining out, the actual felt had discolored quite a bit, which was clearly from the gentleman wearing it. But you know what? It's not beyond repair, and in fact, what happens to felt when it's sort of 50, 60, 70 years old and it's been sun damaged is that when you start introducing steam or agitation with either using a very fine grade sandpaper or a very stiff brush, for instance, then that will actually they will go into powder if you're not, and so you have to be careful what you're doing.
Yeah.
Here he is.
And there he is. And just to show the comment here, Paul, you rascal, I need that hat. Slap a pizza logo in there and ship it this week. Send me the invoice. There you go. Just like that.
Well, I didn't do it on purpose.
Paul, I swear, you're a 4-letter word, man.
That's the ultimate compliment.
I'll show you your new hat. It's quite quite something.
Look at
really.
that.
Yeah, I mean
look at that.
I mean you can wear it.
All right, I've seen enough. Go ahead, put one of those logos. Put one of the logos and ship it this week. I'm done.
Right,
I can't even. I can't stand it anymore.
Yeah, there you go.
God,
yeah, I mean, again, Nathan has called out the Carmen Sandiego hat on the wall. Like, it's eye catching, and it's something like I need that. And the same pull that I had when I saw the hat when Kevin was selling it, and it's something like I feel like I have to have that, and that's the other thing. It's hard to find that in vintage. I don't come across a whole lot of like red hats in the vintage game. So that's when something like this is, I think it's special.
There's not many about anywhere, to be frank with you. I mean, if you went online now and you scoured the world, you might find Bellissimo might have one. People like Borsellino will have one. I guess, but there'll be very few other makes that will have them. So yeah, they're quite unusual. But the actual red of this is so vibrant. It's very much. It's typical of Fepsa. They know how to really tempt you with these beautiful colors, and you sort of sit there and you think, oh my god, I've got to have that. And before you know where you are, I've ordered another 50 or 60 felts. It's like right now I've got probably 10 Western weight felts that are 80x and above. It's like I'm probably going to put them up onto my social media and say, who wants a hat made of this, because it's pretty rare to get hold of these felts. So come while they're there anyway. But
I just wanted to jump in. I had to grab my red hat because this is what I wear when I'm in the stores and touring. This is my championship hat that we got a couple years ago. But I'm traveling and on job sites, but I said, I got 2 minutes to jump in to cuss Paul out and to tell him to ship that thing out. Ship it out this week. I've seen enough. I need that hat. I can't stand it anymore. He looks so good in it, and I want it. Don't even put it on the site because I don't want somebody else getting it. Ship it. You got the address. You got all the information you need, Paul. And thank you guys. Keep the conversation going. I'm gonna listen in. Probably my headphones, because I've only bought one vintage hat that was from Paul the Lock and Co. So I was just curious, like, what are some things you look for? And I love the insight already, not only here on the stream, but also kind of behind the scenes with some ideas that we're going across. So all right, guys, thank you so much, and I will see you guys
have
later.
A great day, sir. Say howdy, my friend. Nathan Tuck. I mean, that's the way you sell a hat,
That's amazing. It wasn't planned. It was just I finished making the hat this afternoon. I put it up on my social media because I was proud of it and pleased with it, and I thought I'd just wear it today because it's when you make something new, it's nice if it's in your size. It's nice to be able to share it and show it off. And obviously Nathan is a very much appreciated customer of mine, and it works with a project that we're working on together. So shout out to you, Nathan. And like I said, Paul said that he has this felt in stock, so hopefully we'll get Nathan modeling the hat on the show in short order, and then you guys can
reach out to Paul and get your own Carmen. I'm just going to call it the Carmen Sandiego. Paul, you provide whatever name you see, because I feel like this could be a good seller, I think.
I'd like to think that it is. I like the bright colors, but each to their own, as we say.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I love it. So, I mean, getting back to the discussion, I mean, I echoed the fact that the smells, just even though I expected there to be more, I guess, duds on the smell front, I really haven't encountered that. But there are ways, and Paul outlined, like, you take a stepwise approach, start off with some basic steam, and you'll be surprised how far that goes.
Yeah, I think the other thing also, Luke, is when you're getting into the vintage hats, it's how far are you prepared to go in terms of working on the hat? And the reason I say that is, and it sort of runs into the next subject that we're going on to, is the size of the hat. Is that as we've had on many discussions before, a lot of the older hats are small sizes because men's hats were smaller in size back in the 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s. And so to get one today that would actually fit like me, I'm a 60, Nathan's a 60, or 59 and a half, somewhere around there, is quite unusual. So what we have to do is we have to take the hat, and I take, and this is a really good tip, I think, is to get the hat, put it on a hat stand or something, even if it's a bottle, a wine bottle or something, a wine bottle or something, where you can actually take pictures of the hat all the way around, so that you've got a reference point as to what the original shape and style was, so that you can always refer back to that when you're actually rebuilding it. So the thing is that you can take a hat apart, and you can take it up one or two sizes in terms of stretching the felt. However, in doing that, if you go too far, it will put the actual brim out of kilter with the actual crown of the hat, and so it's a job for somebody that is an enthusiast in hatting and has all the tools to do it. And of course, one other good tip was that when you come to looking at the band here, the ribbon. Thank you. The ribbon, normally they've got some excess ribbon in there. So if you did happen to take it off, stretch the hat slightly, and then put it back on, you still could cover it up so that you could still use the original ribbon. That's something I learned quite early on, and that's quite good because it keeps the integrity of the age of the hat and the ribbon all in one piece.
Yeah. Nathan has a great question here. I don't know the answer to it, but maybe you do, Paul. Is there a particular brand that you find that stands up better when buying it vintage?
In the UK, I'd say yes. It's Lock & Co. and secondly Herbert Johnson. And then the derivatives of that, and what I mean by that is, do you remember you had a Scott & Co. hat from me, didn't you? Now Scott & Co. Was another German street hatter that I think back in the 60s they sold out to Lock & Co. and they had some absolutely stunningly beautiful and expensive hats made. So if you can find a Scott & Co. and I've seen them, on eBay in America, there it is. That they are absolutely beautifully made, and there'll always be a market for something as lovely as that. I mean, even if you look at the leather inside the sweatband, it's just beautiful.
It's this hat is gorgeous, and I knew I had to have it. Like I said, I can definitely empathize with Nathan. It's like you when you see it, that's got to be mine. All things considered. But it's that's a great tip, and the fit is going to be something. And besides the fact that vintage hats tend to run smaller, we know the extra tidbit on that, which is probably related, is that felts tend to shrink, right? Over time, and and it really is important before you go about testing the work. So we've seen that on some of the Facebook groups where folks take the stretching a little too far, and then you get some of that warping on the brim.
You do. I mean, one of the things as an enthusiast that it's worth buying, and in fact I bought this and another one prior to getting into actually making hats was a vintage hat stretcher. Now, I don't know whether you can see it, but it is actually wider there than it is there, so it's tapered, if you like, and it's got a sort of ratchet that you turn around in the middle there, and it brings the whole thing out. And the reason why the older ones are better, if you like, is that they're deeper in the actual wooden construction here. The more modern ones perhaps are 2/3 of the width. Now, with the 2/3 of the width, what happens is you stretch the hat and you might get a line here, but with this one, you don't actually get a line. It goes right the way up, and it actually works out very well. And of course, these are quite nice to have on the side or to have in your collection to look after any hat. And of course, if you've gone out in the rain and you come back, then this is an ideal tool to actually keep the hat in its shape. Whilst it's actually drying out. And in fact, what I didn't realize was that I knew I had about a 59.5 head, but when I get into Western weight felts, the blocks that I have are more round rather than oval, and my head is slightly oval. So in fact, this helps me stretch a hat like my open road here, so that I can get more of an oval shape, and then it's a perfect fit. So again, another really good tip for getting a really nice fit on the stiffer hats that you might have in your collection.
I do love that open road. That's a another great hat. I feel like a broken record here with this, but hey. Knowing your head size, I mean, I think that's another thing that, I guess surprised or not surprised that a lot of folks don't know. I feel like knowing it in centimeters will do you a lot better because obviously, with the other systems, there are numbers that aren't quite compatible. And I think having it in centimeters is really useful to have.
I had a gentleman only this week who has a similar situation, but worse than myself, with skin cancer on the head. And he's actually coming round now because he bought a hat from a large department store group, and it's served him well, but it's the sizes are, they have those small, medium, large, and of course they're not a very good fit. And then the UV protection is not that good in a cotton hat. So in fact, that's another subject that we could go into actually, because Akubra hats, for instance, are of the weight that they are, sort of 150, 170 grams, and a dark felt, because that is one of the best colors and weights for UV protection. So I understand. And in fact, the best hats, and I'm sorry, I digress here, is the Gambler with about a 4-inch brim. So it's this thing here, whilst it might not be attractive to most people, is probably best for sun, because it's the dark that will give the protection. It's actually got some beaver in it, so that's even more tighter, and so more tight, so it will be actually tighter, giving more protection. And it's of that weight, and the width of the brim is there. But I was coming on to the size thing with the gentleman. He didn't know his size. He doesn't know his size, so he's come around. And so what I would say is that centimeters now is better, because what you may be, I think you're aware of, Luke, is that there's a size like 6 7/8 in America is smaller than 6 7/8 in the UK.
Correct.
So a lot of confusion is had when somebody buys a Stetson in the UK and they're buying they think they're a 6 7/8, whereas in fact they're a UK 6 7/8, which is more a 7. So these are things that people aren't aware of, and of course the best thing really is this quite normal tape measure.
Correct.
Okay, so a straightforward tape measure, and then we go on to things like the conformator that we've got in the back here. This is for more of the in-depth sort of, when you're getting to custom made, you're getting into this contraption that's adjusts around the head, and then you can draw around inside, and then you can start making a wooden block from that and getting a perfectly shaped in a crown for somebody in their hat. But sizing is a major thing on the vintage hats.
Yeah, and that's something that in terms of your communication with the seller, right? Because I mean, I think we've all seen like the typical thing, which is to measure with a tape measure across and diagonal, and those are fine. But if you can just go ahead and see if, do you have a tailor's measuring tape handy? That way they have the ability to measure the circumference around, and we can't expect supreme accuracy, right? Some folks are going to be more accurate than others, but I'll at least give you an idea whether there's a tag that can confirm that measurement. And that's the other thing with vintage is a lot of these tags, they get brittle and they fall off. So it's not, you got to be prepared to know that they may not be a size tag that has survived that all those years.
And we get a lot of people advertising a hat as being one size. Well, of course, no hat is one size. They are a size. Now, that size might not be appropriate for you and probably won't be in many cases. Very difficult for somebody that hasn't got a proper measure, like an internal, measure like one of these things, to actually measure and give you an accurate reading. So you see people using the cloth tape to actually put it around the inside, it's an attempt to try, but it's really quite challenging. So I'm afraid that sizing is probably the biggest fall down in buying a hat if it's not clearly sized on from a distance in a buyer, rather than being obviously if you're there you can try it on, of course, but we're talking about distance selling, and then that's the biggest problem, really.
Right. And then my recommendation is that's something you want, just then apply the appropriate price, meaning what's the price I would pay for this, assuming that it didn't fit. That way, either one, I can maybe resell it, rehome it, and if you don't want to sell it, maybe you can gift it, right? Like maybe this could make a hat. It's like, hey, try this on. This might fit you. And then you can gift somebody a hat, which I think is just a neat way to kind of spread the hobby.
No, great idea. I mean, it's so nice, the joy that actually getting a hat for the first time from you, or and when we as a hatters, when we have the opportunity and we deliver on exceeding the expectations of the client, that's fantastic. It really is great.
Yeah. And, obviously part of the condition is the sweatband, and we've talked about, brittle sweatbands before. I've noticed that some brands can be a little inconsistent, right? We know that a lot of brands will have kind of like a upper tier and a middle tier and a lower tier. And some of that sweatband, I feel like that's another source of variation. I've had Dobbs, for instance, some of them that the sweatband holds up, under good use. Some of them hold up better than others. And I think a brand like Borsalino, I've seen a little bit more consistency in that sweatband quality. So just got to keep that in note, because, that is if that's something that you're planning to wear, that could impede, your enjoyment of the hat.
What's interesting, you mentioned Borsalino, is that I think even this one has actually got a cloth.
Yeah.
A cloth sweatband. It's very difficult to see it on here, but it is it's a gross grain cloth sweatband on the inside, and that makes the hat very light. And of course, you could even roll it up and put it in your pocket.
Yeah, it's crushable, no?
Yeah, this is quite light, so you could do that with it. I'm not sure I would do that with this one, but certainly that may well be one of the reasons they do it. But it makes it very, very comfortable. And of course, those people, and there are a few people that I've come across that don't like the leather sweatbands because they're actually allergic to leather, or it agitates their skin. So, it's not unusual, if you like, to come across cloth sweatbands.
I love it. And let's see, just going to go down here to the framework here, trace the brand and era. This is, you guys already know, this is one of my most favorite parts of the vintage game, is either before you get the hat, if you're able to kind of have an inkling of some of the provenance of the hat, right? Some of the rarity, but more often than not, I do the research after I've already purchased the hat, right? So the hat's already pulled the levers and say, hey, you're going home with me. And then after the fact, you get situations. The Scott and Co. That I think I traced that back to the 1930s. And you're not going to find all the information out there, right? Certain websites like Brad, shout out to Brad, the Hatted Professor. His website, it's a great resource for Hat Corporation of America. There are other websites for Stetson. And then you obviously have the Fedora Lounge and other avenues there for you to do the research and maybe nail down kind of the some of the history, right? Some of the maybe even the decade, or sometimes you're able to get even like a bill of sale or something, or some indicator that somebody wrote down when the hat was purchased. And that's part of like that kind of like that treasure hunt, and one I particularly enjoy.
Just picking up on that, Luke, most people who collect would know this, but on many of the older hats, if you peel back the sweatband, and do it carefully because they can disintegrate, but if you peel back the sweatband, on many of the hats, they'll have a label. And in some cases, they might have 2 or 3 labels, and there'll be one label there that's from the manufacturer, and that will refer to the style, the size, the date it was made, all that sort of thing.
Yeah.
But then you might have a sticker in there that is from the actual menswear retailer that sold it. So it's always a source of fun to actually turn that over and find something. And when you do, Borsellino are very much into that, and no doubt you've seen on the various websites people asking if somebody can date the hat for them because it's got a series of numbers and things that you refer to.
Correct. And that's a great example. I mean, Borsellino, given the popularity of the brand, and the level of the fan base out there, they've done a lot of that work. I call them benevolent nerds, right? The folks that out there that are they have that need to know, and not only that, they have the inclination to share what they know and share that knowledge, and you start building that knowledge database out there. So shout out to the benevolent nerds out there. It's again part of the fun, and it's nice when you're able to kind of nail down. You just feel like, because there's so many different ways to tackle your collection, and we've talked about that. What kind of collection you want? Do you want a hat of every brand? Do you want a certain color scheme? Right? There's so many ways to slice this pie. And, some of these things, it could be you want a hat from various eras, and some of this homework that other folks have done already for you is really great, to kind of.
When you were showing the Homburg, then that reminded me that, one of the reasons I bought that Homburg and others that I bought that were classic Homburgs was because a Homburg is one of the most difficult hats to make. And I wanted to challenge myself and make a Homburg. And I think I've made about 7 or 8 now. I think recently I've made 3 for one gentleman alone. And that's another reason for buying them, is actually to look at how it's been constructed, how in particular how the curl is put onto the brim, what sort of stiffness, thickness of felt, all of these things, they all play a part in getting that final final feeling of just how good the hat is going to be, I do like a little bit of stiffness in the felts, because I think that gives it definition, and it's almost like that I want to say comic book feel, but I'm not sure if you know what I mean. But it's like a lot of the hats that I make have higher crowns, as we know. I'm a big fan of the 1930s and 40s. And I think with the stiffness and things, it makes it feel almost like it's perfect. It's in my view, not everybody's view, but and it sort of comes across, and people are that's sharp, that's cool. And it's things like Nathan's reaction today, for instance, that makes it all worthwhile, because I was sat there yesterday looking at the felt. I think it was about time I made that hat, and all this and what have you. But it's buying the vintage hats is a great source of knowledge for us that want to collect and also want to learn, because you know, it's what more and more people are saying in the UK. You know, what are we doing about hatting? Because there's only 15 or 20 people that are proper hatters here in the UK. So
yeah,
how are we going to keep it alive? And the only way we're going to keep it alive is by learning and then passing that on. So we've all got to do our bit to try and make that happen.
That's correct. That's correct. You know, great message, and I think that's something that we try to remind folks about. Is the whole point here is to try to create new numbers, right? By being good folks and sharing, you know, what we know. And again, you never know. You know, again, we're a small community as it is, and you know, it's helpful when we can kind of help each other out to be kind of create new hat nerds. And here's, I mean, assess the value. And this is such an interesting topic, right? Brad has a section on his website, which I really like hit home for me about not overestimating like the value of some of it. Because I always get asked, I mean, you guys have probably heard this before, you know, is there any money in that? Like I sell some hats sometimes, like, oh yeah, is there good money in that? I'm like, well, I wouldn't, you know, I wouldn't go into it, you know, just to kind of make a killing. I mean, we're not talking about you know, large, you know, a lucrative. I mean, I guess it can be at certain scales, but like Robert mentioned, this is something that's difficult to scale.
It is, and any form of custom work that you know I do, others do, you know, Robert does, and so on, along with the refurbishment, it's a labor of love, Luke. Honestly, I mean, I'm forever having to get the balance between my full-time, not full-time, my other jobs, if you like, to this, because you know I probably earn 5 or 6 times the amount per hour doing those than I do hatting. But my passion is for hats, and you know it's just what I would say is that for people taking it on, it could actually be the icing on the cake of if you've got somebody, like as an example, my son may well at some point look after children when him and his wife now has a family, and his wife continued to work. Now, if that's the case, you know, I should be saying to him, son, you know, you really need to do something more in the hat business, and you know, you can make, you know, maybe another £1,000, £2,000 a month on hatting. Now, you know, when you can do that of an evening, and it doesn't encroach on your family life too much, then that's an additional income. But to actually try and do it full time is very, very risky, and there's very few people in the UK doing that. It's really when you get to the likes of, you know, the people that we've seen in and around, like Laird, you know, Lock and Co and others, where they produce them in a mass production area, and they have the funds to be able to fund that, and of course the shop frontage, so that people know that they are drawn to, you know, whether it's London, Manchester, you know, Edinburgh, to where there's likely to be a hat specialist.
Yeah, absolutely. And Nathan asked a great question, which I don't necessarily know the answer to, but I can tell you Borsalino is one of those, especially the Alessandria models and some of their more popular models seem to kind of have hold their value pretty well. I feel like for me, the ones that are kind of like, and obviously the Alessandria is helped out by, you know, folks like Johnny Depp, that kind of increased that popularity, right? I think for me, the money is in like the not say the hardcore, in as much as also folks on the fringes. I mentioned that with Stetson. You know, a lot of folks that are not into hats still know the name Stetson, so that could help you sell a hat, as opposed to, let's say, Hukel, which is a great brand as well, but maybe doesn't have that household recognition that maybe Stetson or Borsalino have.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a good question that that Nathan posts, and an interesting one, because you know in the UK it's very difficult to buy genuine Stetson American-made Western style hats. Okay, and most of them are imported and by individuals rather than there are a few companies that import them, but they end up costing an awful lot of money. We've spoken before about the Open Road 6X, which in America is about $350. Over here it's £550. So of course that's in dollars, I guess that's about $700. So it's about twice the price in America. So of course, you know, you could almost pay for your flight to go over and get the hat and come back with it. you know, how tough is that? But the other confusing thing, just on so because Stetson hats do hold their value, but then you get into this explanation around about the 10x, 20x, 30x, 40x, 1000x of the beaver versus rabbit content of the fur, and of course the better furs command higher prices, and so that's another gray area to get into. You know, buying secondhand hats, but you know, I've sold you know, beaver felt Borsalinos before and got several £100, and also Lock & Co. I mean, Lock & Co do a high-end hat which was 100% beaver, and they were about £700 or £800, and then now I think they're more like 1,200 or upwards. I've sold those, bought those and sold those for about 300, 350 secondhand. And they are absolutely stunningly beautiful. I mean, they are a hat for life. If you can find one and it fits you, you know, I probably would say this in all honesty, the one that I had that was my size, I regret selling because it was so stunningly beautiful. And I've not had anything better since.
Wow. Yeah. I mean, I agree. The ones that got away, right?
The ones that got away.
You know, and it's one of those things where that's you know, and I know there's folks out there that never sell a hat, and that's fine too. You know, again, everybody has different ways to tackle this, but in terms of assessing the value, similar to what I was mentioning with Brad, you know, is like it pays not to assume too much that something's more valuable, right? Because these things are vintage, they're rare, but you want to kind of keep a level head about what this could resell for if you were thinking about reselling it. But things like eBay, so if you're somebody that shops on eBay, you can go ahead and look up the model. Like you can look up completed auctions to see if a similar model has sold and what it's sold for. And that gives you an idea, right? Not just that it's completed, but what did it sell for, right? Not what it's listed for. You know, things like that. Obviously, forums like Fedora Lounge, you can see what stuff has sold when, and hopefully the price is still there for you to see it. These are all little indicators that kind of give you some semblance of the value. But yeah, this is just a tip for those folks that are on eBay.
I think the interesting thing is I've spoken to many people that have said to me that they are hat enthusiasts, hat collectors. They try and make some money out of the hats on the side. And what tends to happen is if they're not in a position to actually invest in all of the equipment, and when I say all, I mean, you know, a reasonable steamer, a reasonable set of blocks, you know, and the stretching tools and so on. Which frankly, you know, it is a bit of an investment, but not too high an investment. But if they don't do that, then you know, they do tend to fall away, and it's such a shame because, you know, a lot of it depends what reason they've gone into their hat collecting, and if they've gone in to make money, it's probably not a good start, you know. But if they've gone in because they really love the hats, then, you know, there's always a way that they can be helped by people like us and others that come on here. To you know, to leverage their knowledge to then be able to feel more comfortable about investing in it, whether that's time or money, you know.
Absolutely. And the next thing, gauge versatility. And again, versatility is not right. We saw the reaction that Nathan had to the red hat. I don't know how many people would describe a red hat as versatile, right, in terms of going with everything. But yeah, if that's your thing, meaning that you are somebody that maybe you have a limited collection and it has to be functional, right? You know, you have to kind of have that incorporated, because that's also part of the fact. If you think it's versatile, then maybe somebody else will as well, and maybe that'll be easier to kind of to resell if that's what you're going to do.
I think one of the biggest things to remember, Luke, is buying what you like.
Correct.
You know, it's looking at something and thinking, well, you know, I like the size of that brim, and I know that size brim actually works for me. You know, I like the size of that crown. I know that I can get away with that. You know, and I think that's a very good start. And then just picking up on what Nathan's put here, I mean, getting into, whether it's grey, brown, black, blue, think about the classic colors. And I mean, hats can always be dressed up with pin badges, with feathers, and lots of other things. And actually, we've seen trim them with various bits of
I do love that.
rope and God knows what else. And this is something that I might wear with a pair of jeans or something, or just a t-shirt, as a sun hat. But it's this sort of thing that you can still do to a like the Borsellino behind there. It looks quite bland as a black hat, but if you put something like a pin in it or a few other bits and pieces in it, it just lifts it.
Right. And we got Nathan saying red alert, red alert. Yeah, it's, again, I think the point is, if it makes your heart go, poop, poop, skip a beat, then, that's worthwhile, because, maybe it'll make somebody else heart skip a beat as well. If that, again, if you rehoming was the idea. But again, the most important factor in a hat, how it makes you feel when you put it on. I think that's the real pull.
And I think as you get older, I've certainly found that when I first started wearing hats because I had to, I hid behind the fact that I needed to wear a hat. Doctors said you got to wear a hat, blah, blah, blah. And I was fairly conservative. But I think now I really don't mind. I've never had any negativeness, and quite opposite, actually. And I just think, well, as long as it's sort of coordinated with what I'm wearing, and it does the job that I want it to do, i.e. keep the sun off my head, then I'm very happy with that. So I think there is this sort of time period that you go through if you've not been used to wearing a hat, to get used to you looking at yourself wearing a hat. Because that's another big thing. You spend years looking at yourself without a hat, and all of a sudden you put one on. We're not all Bruno Mars, and look $1 million, and what can I say? But you get used to it.
Right. Absolutely. And that gets us to the last thing: execute with confidence. I mean, there are certain provisions, right? A lot of the folks that have, obviously the reputation matters a whole lot more than one individual sale, right? Paul's described this several times, Robert as well, that sometimes you get a customer that you can't get right on the first pass, and that you're gonna go above and beyond, and you eat some of that in terms of your time, but the value in terms of preserving your relationship and your reputation, that definitely outweighs. So if you're able to find that person, it's much easier to go forward, because if it doesn't quite turn out to meet expectations, they're going to go above and beyond to kind of make sure that you're happy.
And I mean, from my side of that coin, from the maker's point of view, I've certainly seen that when I've gone down that route of going above and beyond, and even down to the detail of the box that I send the hat out in, the instructions that I send with the hat, if it's somebody that's buying a hat from me on the first occasion, and they're not, they haven't got a hat brush or something, I'll send them a hat brush, because I want them to feel as though I care, the industry cares, and that if they look after this, it will last a long time. And in many cases, and I'm talking probably 40, 50 cases, people have come back and bought more than one hat. And I mean, some of them are multiple. I mean, I think I've mentioned to you, I've got one gentleman who has bought 14 hats from me so far. So, it's lovely when you start getting a relationship with your customers. And you get the opportunity to meet up and go for coffee. Ian and I did on here, and we've been out for a few beers, and with yourself as well, Luke. Fantastic. The camaraderie and one common interest is brilliant. But yeah, it's finding that right source of hats, and really, there are dealers out there that will buy hats from estate sales and things, and then they'll just put 2 or 3 up on eBay or something, and they don't necessarily know what they've got, and they certainly haven't cleaned them or dealt with them. And I think that's such a shame, because it's my opinion that every old hat deserves a new life, and and being restored before it goes up for sale. But then, of course, if that happened, people like myself would find it more difficult to find stocks to do what we do to. So it's a chicken and egg. But yeah, once you find a source for good vintage hats, then keep it.
Correct. I agree. And obviously, we all know Paul also has besides his custom models, he's got vintage models that he's given the appropriate love to. So, definitely support Paul and support all the good folks out there that put in that elbow grease, right? And, for a small markup for their time, but they really are kind of like part of that ecosystem that we need here to kind of keep the supply going, right? For us hat nerds.
Yeah.
Let's see. Nathan says, have you ever taken a vintage hat and been asked to replace a hat liner or sweatband?
Yes, I've got one in now. It's a Stetson. The sweatband has actually disintegrated where it's got so dry. The liner actually was okay. I've cleaned it and steamed it and actually will reuse it. But I've also had a situation where somebody had a Borsellino hat and they wanted the original leather sweatband in. So what I did was I cut from a similar color sweatband that I had in stock, about 2 centimeter infill, and I extended it. And so instead of having one line of stitching at the back, it had 2 lines.
Right.
So I then positioned it so that it was equal, and re-sewed it in after stretching the felt. But what's very important is that the client give you the accurate measurement of their head, and then you make the sweatband to the size of the client, and then you stretch the felt to actually hit the sweatband.
We got Nathan back. Nathan.
Hi.
1 second.
All right. Oh, all right. He's got it.
Yeah.
I feel like Nathan's got something cooked up. Let's give Nathan a little more time. But yeah, agreed. These are things, like I said, it's also, like I said, if it's something that you're not comfortable doing by yourself, that's the nice thing, is that you can always find videos. Paul's got great videos. Robert. There we go. The Pizza Hut hat.
Hey.
All right, I got to see this this red machine here. My goodness, this thing that's beautiful, Paul.
Yeah.
You like that? Yeah. It's it'll fit you perfectly because it fits me perfectly, and I'll change over the lining. It's got a nice teardrop in it. Obviously, it's a nice rake on it. It's just it just pops in the light, It's very nice.
You can't take your eyes off of it. It's a magnet.
And one of my favorite felts that you made for me is the light blue, the runt.
Oh yes,
I call it.
Yeah,
it's that 5% beaver 95 rabbit, and it's just the felt on there is unbelievable, and I get compliments on that one every time I wear it. It's just it floors everybody. So
it's one of those colors, isn't it? That I think it was similar to this color. It
just feels really good.
It's a nice sort of it's a great color, but you can't find hats easily in these colors, so you don't have any choice but to have it custom made. Well,
that's why it's great that we have good sources.
You almost like have a spring lineup, with that light blue, and maybe that.
I always get around to actually doing it, didn't I? Really, but I haven't I haven't invested the time in doing that. I've just I've been, to be honest with you, I've been going out at my son's wedding, and now my wife and I have been going around the country trying to find this next house that we can actually build this facility in the house where we can actually have people come and stay locally, and then work for 2 or 3 days and actually build a hat and go away with 1 or 2 hats, and because I've had about 5 or 6 of my clients have said here in the UK they'd love to come over and do it, because I think I've positioned it more like a boys' hat making session, if you know what I mean. There'll be Guinness on tap and coffee and good music and you know and of course you know we'll do whatever style hat they desire. So so I've not spent enough time on developing a lineup, which I should really consider doing now that I'm doing as well as I am. So and that's much appreciated to everybody on here and people that see my website.
I love that idea because I was in a 2 weekends ago. Me and a buddy of mine went to a bourbon distillery that's about an hour from where I'm at. But they had this, you know, most distillery, they'll do a tour. You buy a tour, you know, they walk you around.
Yeah.
Well, this one had this fill your own bottle program. Wow. So you pay a fee, and then they've already picked out 4 barrels.
Yeah.
So you sit down in this group. They give you the 4 samples in front of you. You taste your flight there, and you say, okay, I like that particular one. This is the one I want. They give you an empty bottle. You go over to the barrel, you fill your bottle, and then you put the label on it. You design your label or whatever you're going to call it, you know, and you cork it, seal it. You know, you do the whole thing, and it's your bottle. You picked it out. You put your name on it. So it was a very personalized experience, and I thought, wow, I hope most distilleries should do this because it's so simple and easy. Yeah. And I think that what you're describing reminds me of that, where you could come to a location, you know, have beverages and entertainment, and you know, it's an experience of making your hat. You know, I mean, how you know, how can you top that? I mean, that's such a wonderful idea.
Yeah.
So I hope that comes to fruition.
I think it's a nice thing for people to be able to talk about. A number of my clients have said, you know, how they like telling the story. And Nathan, you've been one of them. You know, each of the hats have had a story of one sort or another, and isn't that nice? You know, it's really nice to. It takes you back to when you were a child and you get your first bicycle and you've got the story behind. You know, I saw my friends on their bike. I loved it. I told my parents they got me one like this and that, and you develop this whole start to finish story. And I think that's the same as we're just getting older. You know, our toys are just getting different, and you know, these are our toys, I guess.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. Well, gentlemen, I mean, I appreciate you guys joining me again. It's my privilege to watch Nathan spend his money on, and I got a little bit of dopamine hit for free. You know, Nathan, make it a regular thing. I'm sure Paul won't mind. I certainly don't mind. I'm sure the viewers don't mind.
Well, you know, I'm waiting for Robert to get back, and I don't know if I'm putting my straw on backwater now. I don't know, but I had that kind of deal going with him, and then and also news to Paul, which I haven't told him yet. Luke and I were planning to have a show probably in the fall. Yeah. It was actually going to be sooner rather than later, but the straw idea came up with Robert. Correct. So we're going to push it back to the fall, but we were just going to we're going to design a hat here on the show. So, and we were going to go, and I had some ideas of like shapes and width and stuff, but I just really wanted to share that experience with the viewers and with Luke, and hey, let's walk through ordering a hat and designing one. And we're probably going to do that in the fall. So this was unexpected, but I saw that thing and I was just like, oh gosh, this is too much. I can't stand it. And I gave away my red Western back in Dominican Republic when I was there. I gave it away to the winner of the competition we were in. I was just kind of a gesture because he really liked it, and I was like, okay, he's going to appreciate the hat, so I gave it away. So I'm missing a red hat, and then I saw one today, and it was instant. Love it.
The universe has spoken.
Yeah, love at first sight. So I'm excited about that. Unexpected there for sure.
Well, I'll make the changes for you, Nathan, and put the liner in, and I'll send you some photographs and some details, and then we'll top and tail it probably by the end of the week. So that'll be lovely.
That doesn't push you too much, but
yeah, and then when it arrives, you can model it for us, Nathan.
Oh yeah, and I did. Let's see. This came in yesterday, I think.
Oh yeah, is that from Jeff?
So I got to take this to California. So I wanted to make sure, because I was probably gonna wear something else on the way there. So,
that does look gorgeous on you, Nathan. Yeah.
So I'm going to carry it with this to protect it.
And Nathan, where did you pick that one up?
What's that?
Where did you pick that one up?
I got that off Amazon. It was
gotcha.
$60-ish, $60.
All right.
It seems pretty sturdy though. It took a couple days. But yeah, I wanted to protect it. I didn't want to show up and I got a bashed hat. So, because I'll probably wear one of my open roads, or I don't know. It's a spring. This year they're having some kind of thing. It's like a gala thing. There's always a theme.
Yeah, it's gala.
And this year it's white, and so I've got a white sport coat. So I might have a white Western hat maybe. Or a bright red fedora that's coming my way soon. I don't know. I haven't decided yet. So anyway, love it.
I'm looking forward to seeing those photos. All right. Well, gentlemen, I'm going to thank Paul. I'm going to thank Nathan for joining me on screen. It's always a pleasure. Looking forward to seeing, that red hat coming back. And I'm going to thank also Ian and Josh, two of my faithful moderators, as well as James Bond. If you want that red fedora, please reach out to Paul. He's got the materials to make one in your own size, and he's just a pleasure to work with. So
instant classic right there.
Yeah, you won't be disappointed. I'm gonna again tell you how I always leave you. Support these fine folks in the Good Luke's Network. Support all the great fine hat folks outside the Good Luke's Network. And even if you don't, right? Even if you choose not to support, the one thing you got to do, or else we'll get Carmen Sandiego after you. Don't want to do that. But regardless, the one thing you got to do is you got to stay hatting, my friend. Have a great day. Ciao, everybody.
Bye.